Right, so you're looking to master drop B, right? One of the most iconic tunings in metal. But it can be a total nightmare to get it sounding tight. Your strings feel loose, everything can turn to mud, and getting real power out of it feels impossible sometimes. Trust me, I've been there. But the secret to a great drop B sound isn't just about having super thick strings or the perfect amp settings. It's all in your technique, about learning the riffs that were born in that tuning and force you to play with precision and power. And that's exactly what we're doing today. This isn't just a list of my favourite songs, this is the personal 10 riff roadmap that taught me how to tame that low end sludge and turn it into a weapon. I can absolutely guarantee that if you master these 10 riffs, you won't just know a bunch of new songs, you'll understand the feel of drop B. You'll know how to keep it tight, how to make it heavy, and how to be a better, more controlled metal player because of it. So I'm going to share the knowledge that made this tuning finally click for me. Let's get stuck into the first one. My Children, My Bride, on Wings of Integrity. First up, we're kicking off with a riff that for me was lesson number 1 in the fundamentals of metalcore. This is all about the groove and the syncopation. When I first started learning this style, this riff really exposed the weaknesses in my rhythm playing. My biggest problem was just keeping my left and right hands perfectly in sync with each other. I quickly realised that a lot of this riff isn't actually about the notes you're playing, it's about the silence in between them. I was playing all the right notes, but I wasn't giving the rest the respect they deserved. My playing was sloppy, and I just couldn't get it to sound super tight. Knowing where to rest and how to lock in with the drummer was what gave me the hardest time. The breakthrough was to stop thinking about just playing notes and start thinking about creating a rhythm. I put on a drum track and focused entirely on locking my right hand in with the kick and snare, but more importantly, I drilled my left hand muting, making sure it clamped down to kill the string noise at the exact moment a rest was supposed to happen. When both hands finally started working together to create those sharp silent gaps, the whole riff just came to life. This riff taught me that the spaces in between the notes are just as important as the notes themselves. A massive lesson for this genre. It's such an epic song and I honestly still love playing it to this day. Architects, always. This Architects riff is a huge lesson in dynamics and rhythm, and it's one that looks deceptively simple until you get into the details. When I first started learning this, I remember thinking, oh, this is easy, this can't be that difficult. On the surface it's just loads of chords and drop B chugs, but then I realised, no, it definitely gets more difficult. You've got these fast alternate pick 16th notes, and then you have to suddenly slow yourself right down into that more rhythmic, groovy section. That transition is the real killer. Controlling that shift from speed to feel without losing the timing is something I have to really focus on even today. The only way I could get it right was to stop focusing on my hands and start focusing on the pulse of the song. I had to learn to count it out properly and really listen to what the drums were doing. It forced me to internalise the groove of the slow part so I could anticipate it even while I was still in the middle of the fast section. It was a huge breakthrough for my internal clock. Honestly, this riff was a massive turning point for me. It really helped me lock in properly with the drummer and get used to playing in unusual time signatures. Because up until then, I'd really only ever been comfortable playing in 4/4. Bleed From Within, the last of our kind. This next track is one that's really important to me. I've been a huge fan of Bleed From Within since their first EP, Servants of Divinity. And I learned this song right away when it came out. It's a very technical, metalcore focused track that really pushed my playing forward. It's kind of in the same vein as the Blind Witness riff we'll see later. There were a couple of tricky parts for me, especially the big stretches in the harmony section where you're basically jumping from the 10th fret down to the 5th fret. That was a real workout for my fretting hand. And then you've got that really cool lead section that sits over the top of the chugs, so you have to be precise with both parts to make it sound clean. Getting this song down was all about repetition and building muscle memory, especially for those big fret hand stretches. It was one of the first times I really had to work on my dexterity to that degree, but because the riff is so much fun to play, it never felt like a chore. I just wanted to get it right. It's such a fun song, it's fast, and it's one I still love playing to this day. Looking back, learning that track was almost fundamental for me. It really helped me build the foundation of speed and dexterity I needed to tackle all the harder songs that I can play now. DevilDriver, Hold Back the Day. This next one is a riff I never actually learned back when it first came out. I think I originally picked it up just to do a medley video, but I ended up really loving it. Both the process of learning it and just playing it. It packs so much in. It's got this kind of awesome old school Machine Head vibe to it. You've got big tremolo pick sections, followed by down picks and gallops, then some pinch harmonics, and even a really cool lead section. For me, the main challenge was a familiar one, syncopating the riffs with the drummer and making sure my left and right hands were perfectly tight and in line with each other through all those different parts. Because there are so many different techniques packed into one riff, the breakthrough was really just enjoying the process of switching between them. It's a fantastic exercise for your picking hand, basically forcing you to go from a loose wrist for the tremolo to a tighter, more aggressive attack for the downpicks and the gallops on a dime. It really sharpens up your versatility. I just really enjoy this one. This riff taught me a lot about being a versatile player, but more than anything, it reminded me how much fun playing guitar can be. It's just a really heavy, chuggy, drop B song, and that's exactly what makes it so great. Parkway Drive, Boneyards. Okay, now we're at the halfway point, and with a riff that has a long and complicated history for me. Boneyards is a song I've always played ever since I first heard it, and Parkway Drive are one of my favourite bands. Crazy thing is, it was only in the last 3 or 4 years that I realised I'd actually been playing it wrong the whole time. Most of the tabs out there were wrong, so when I finally learned it the right way, I found out it's actually a lot trickier than most people make it out to be. It's not just blasting out super fast tremolos, it's actually those precise double pick notes which makes it more of a head scratcher. Add in all the string skipping, the really fast runs in succession, plus the time changes and slowdowns, it's a proper workout. The breakthrough was really a lesson in humility. I had to completely unlearn years of muscle memory. I put the metronome on a painfully slow speed and focused entirely on getting that double picked pattern clean and accurate, not just fast. I had to retrain my hand to do those string skips precisely instead of just blasting through it the way I used to. It was actually a long process. This riff taught me the importance of going back to the source and learning things properly, not just taking the easy route. I'd always wanted to nail this riff, and finally learning to play it the right way after all those years was one of the most satisfying moments I've had on guitar in a long time. I Killed the Prom Queen, Say Goodbye. Man, this next song, Say Goodbye, came out like 18 years ago. Can't believe it, I'm so old. It's another proper metalcore classic. It kind of sits in the same lane as the Bring Me the Horizon and Parkway Drive riffs, but it's a bit more simple and slowed down. The real struggle I had when I was learning it was learning to keep the palm mutes tight only on the low B string, and then on that second string, unpalm muting. You're bouncing off those notes and using that low B as the root note, kind of like those classic 5/7/8 Killswitch Engage style riffs. Back in the day, that was tough for me, making sure the palm mute stayed heavy and chuggy, while the other notes rang out super clearly. The main breakthrough was realising that it's all about a very subtle lift and tilt of my picking hand. I had to find the perfect spot on the bridge where I could anchor my palm to mute the B string, but then just slightly rock my hand forward to free up the other strings. It's a tiny movement, but it makes all the difference. I practiced that bouncing motion really slowly till it became second nature. This riff taught me the art of selective palm muting. It's a fundamental skill for this entire genre basically, and learning how to control that dynamic between a tight, heavy chug and a clear, ringing note is what gives these riffs their life and their character. Machine Head Imperium. This riff is an absolute monster, and for me, it was a huge lesson in bringing multiple difficult right-hand techniques together. It looks simple on the surface, but the details are what make it a real challenge. For the longest time, I could just not get this one to feel right. My main struggle was the alternate picking and string skipping across the 3 lowest strings. My hand always felt clumsy with that inside out picking pattern, and it never felt smooth. On top of that, you've got that iconic pinch harmonic. I could probably hit it 3 times out of 10, which was absolutely infuriating. And even when I did get a clean run, the sheer stamina required meant my hand would be exhausted and I'd start getting sloppy by the end of it. The breakthrough came when I stopped trying to conquer the whole riff at once and completely isolated each problem one at a time. For the picking, I slowed it right down with a metronome and just looped that awkward string skipping pattern until it felt natural. For the pinch harmonic, I spent a whole practice session just finding that exact sweet spot with my thumb and drilling it. And for the stamina, it was about repetition, playing the riff on a loop but focusing on staying relaxed and not tensing up my forearm. This riff basically taught me that it's not enough to learn a technique in isolation. Imperium forces you to combine alternate picking, string skipping, pinch harmonics, and stamina into one relentless part. It's a true gauntlet for your picking hand, and mastering it made me a much tighter guitar player. Blind witness these countless sleepless nights. Alright, if Imperium was a gauntlet, this riff is a proper technical spike in the difficulty. This is where we get into real deathcore precision of metalcore, and for me, it took all the previous lessons and pushed them to their limit. Now this one had a similar set of challenges to the Machine Head riff, but it felt like everything was turned up a notch. You still got that fast alternate picking, but now you're jumping all the way from the lowest string all the way up to one of the highest strings. That massive skip felt like a mile wide at first, and I was constantly hitting the wrong strings or getting my pick caught. But the real killer for me was that dynamic part, where you go from the tight palm mutes and then suddenly open up that low B string for a single note. My left and right hands were just never in sync. I'd either lift my palm mute too early and get a bunch of sloppy noise, or too late and the open note would be completely dead. The solution, again, was to break it down. For the big jump, I practiced just that motion back and forth, focusing on making the movement a strong arc with my wrist rather than a jerky movement with my whole arm. For the palm muting, I had to practice it unplugged, just watching my hands. I focused on making the lifting of my left hand mute and the downstroke of my right hand into one single coordinated action. It took ages, but eventually that sync became automatic. This riff taught me about precision over large distances. It's one thing to be tight in a small area, but it's another to maintain that precision when your hands have to make big, fast movements. It was a masterclass in hand synchronization. Metabolic by Slipknot. Right, it's time to talk about a riff that I still struggle with to this day. Metabolic is an absolute monster, and it stands as one of the toughest rhythmic challenges in this entire list. It's full of those chromatic sections that to me just feel kind of off. They sound amazing, but they don't follow any kind of real predictable structure, which makes them incredibly hard to lock in with. You're constantly switching from palm muted parts to open notes, and there's a lot of riding that low B string while jumping up to the power chords on the second and third strings. That constant, awkward back and forth was something I really struggled with when I first learned it, and honestly, I still have to concentrate harder on it now. And on top of all that complexity, it's just ridiculously fast. There's no easy way through this one. The only way I could even begin to get it down was by slowing it down to a crawl and basically focusing on the pure mechanics of that back and forth motion. It's a riff you have to memorize on a deep muscle memory level because you can't feel it in the same way you can with a groovier riff. It's a purely technical exercise in precision and control when everything feels like it's designed to make you fail. This riff taught me how to tackle parts that are intentionally awkward and unconventional. It's a lesson in pure discipline, forcing your hands to do something that feels unnatural until it becomes precise. It's one of the toughest rhythm riffs out there, period. Bring Me the Horizon, tell Slater not to wash his And for the final riff, we're going way back to the early days for a lesson in pure, unfiltered speed. This is another one that's way more difficult than people probably expect. On paper, it's a fairly straightforward metalcore song, but the thing that makes it so tough is the speed. It is just relentlessly fast. You've got loads of gallop pick sections, loads of tremolo picking, and a ton of downpicking. Or at least, I've always punished myself by choosing to downpick most of it, which turns it into a monster of a stamina challenge. I first learned this song way back in 2007, and honestly, even when I go back and watch old videos of me playing it, I don't know how I was playing it that fast. If I tried to play it at that speed now, I'd definitely have to spend some time building my stamina back up. There's no real secret or trick to this one. The only breakthrough was accepting that it's purely a physical challenge. It's like training for a sprint. You have to build up that fast twitch muscle in your picking hand through sheer repetition until it can handle the pace. I still use this riff as a warm-up sometimes, and it's just as brutal now as it was back then. This riff taught me about my own physical limits on the guitar and what it takes to push past them. It's a reminder that sometimes the biggest challenge isn't a tricky chord or a weird time signature, but just raw, unfiltered speed. So there you have it, the 10 riff roadmap to getting a handle on drop B. If your fingers are feeling a bit stretched and your ears are ringing from all that low end, then you're definitely on the right track. But remember, like I said at the start, this was never about just learning 10 songs. It was about learning the language of this classic tuning. You now have the tools to keep those loose strings from turning to mud, to make your chugs punchy, and to control the power of that heavy sound. The real key is to take these techniques and start listening for that clarity and that tightness in your own playing. You now have the knowledge to make this tuning work for you, not against you. I'd love to know what your favourite drop B riff of this video is, or if there's a different song that taught you how to master it, drop it down in the comments and we'll have a discussion about it.